It's insane that we've all been experiencing the same global issue for months now. But worldwide, across the globe, have we all been experiencing it in the same way? In this 3-part series, I'll be chatting with my friends around the world about how their lives have changed as a result of the pandemic. From their new normal to mental health to dating and traveling, let's see how millennials across the globe have navigated the pandemic. Hey guys, I'm Tiff. I'm an American living in Paris, here to help you navigate life abroad. And if you're new to my channel, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. I share a lot of great information about life in Paris, life abroad, the life lessons that I've learned that I know you'll love. So in today's video, I wanted to share insight into how people across the globe have been experiencing the pandemic. So I'm so grateful to have friends that live all over the world and who are willing to share their perspective with us today. So my friends are tuning in from
Tel Aviv, Israel.
St. Thomas, Virgin Islands.
Berlin, Germany.
Udaipur, Rajasthan in India.
And Playa del Carmen, Mexico.
Seattle, Washington.
Amsterdam, Netherlands.
London, United Kingdom.
New York.
And then I'll of course be sharing my perspective on Paris. So today is part 1 where my friends will be sharing what their new normal is, what their day-to-day life is, what's going on in their country, how their mental health has been, things of that sort. So all of that is to come in this video. And also to keep in mind, a lot of these interviews were filmed around August 21st. Of course, things with the pandemic are changing super quickly, week by week, month by month. So if you're watching this in the future, definitely keep that in mind. Things could have changed a bit since then. All right, so the way that this is gonna work today is that I'll be asking a handful of questions. I'm not just asking these questions to my friends, but I'm asking them to you too. So I would love to hear your perspective on what's going on in the city or country that you live in. So if that all sounds good to you, make sure to hit the like button, and now let's get into it. So the very first question I have is, what's going on in the city or country that you live in? What's the general vibe? Are things open? Are things closed? What's been going on?
So I actually just got back. I was in California for a bit, but Seattle seems to be open for the most part. It's as normal can be.
Right now, we actually in a 2-week shutdown that started just this past Monday.
We are still in a controlled lockdown. Like on a weekend, we are not allowed to go out. The government restricted movement only to weekdays.
The streets are pretty packed, not everywhere, but I would say definitely in the streets, people aren't wearing masks. They were very, very lax about it in the beginning, and then kind of these like more harsh measures like towards the end. So it almost kind of seems like too little, too late.
Mexico just opened back up the end of June or something like that. Things are open, bars close early.
Basically, everything is kind of open, like shops. You can go to museums.
Amsterdam is pretty open. Everything's open. People are walking around without masks. I think it was good that they locked things down early on because obviously we had like a drop of cases.
Most things are actually open except for bars and clubs. And you can go to restaurants. Sometimes the restaurants seem like they're more crowded than outside when you take off your mask inside the restaurant. And then when you're out on the street, you can put it back on. It doesn't make any sense.
Everything is almost business as usual. And I mean, New Yorkers, we're going to do what we can do to make life as normal as possible.
Like restaurants, you can eat inside. Whereas in California, where I just was, you're only allowed to eat outdoors. And so like restaurants have done like makeshift seating in parking lots.
When the airlines started coming back and creating more flights for tourists to come back, the cases just slowly, steadily started to rise. And then we saw a big spike, like 100 cases a day in St. Thomas, and that's like unheard of. That's what really led to this second shutdown.
Really interesting to hear the similarities and differences of what's going on across the globe, right? But here in Paris, things are pretty much open. Restaurants are open, bars are open, movie theaters, gyms, everything has been open. Now, of course, we have to follow certain measures like wearing a mask inside. You have to wear a mask when you're in a store, especially in grocery stores and shopping centers. But for the longest, we actually weren't required to wear a mask when we were just walking outside. We've gradually kind of built up to that. So I think over the last 2 weeks or so, it was mandatory to wear a mask in certain areas of Paris that were pretty crowded. We have seen that cases are starting to rise. In August, everyone in Paris, pretty much everyone in France goes on vacation. So there's a lot more movement, a lot more travel, which I think might be the reason for that. But now it is required to wear a mask outside. So then I'm also super curious to know, have you been dating during the pandemic?
we're gonna keep that.
Oh, I find a way. I did have a guy come and serenade me with his violin underneath my window during COVID. That was nice.
No, I'm super single.
Ladies.
The thing about online dating is you want to take it offline, right? You don't want to be in this cycle of constantly messaging each other and not having a real interaction. So that's been a huge challenge because I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see this person. Maybe I'll start back 2025.
Right. My friends crack me up with this one, so I'm taken, so I obviously haven't been dating during the pandemic, but I was always curious to know, for those people who are single and, still wanted to keep up with dating and whatnot, had they been dating during the pandemic? So thank you, friends, for giving me insight to that question. So now let's get into what your new normal is. Like, what does your day-to-day look like as a result of the pandemic? How have things changed for you? I really do feel like we're all kind of in this transition period, if you will. So what has been going on? What does your new normal look like?
My job, the last time I heard, they're not opening back up. I was already looking to restart my business. So, as you know, I've just kind of thrown myself back into working on that, seeing what I can do and how I can adapt my company to the new normal so that I don't end up like my old job.
Initially, it was difficult to adjust to not getting out of the house, but I feel like one thing that has helped me and has become my new normal, my personal new normal, is having a schedule in place. I feel like everything is organized and I have like a fixed time to do certain things. Like mornings are dedicated only for myself up till 10 o'clock, like it's all about me. And then starts, whatever work I have to do is in the rest of part of the day.
My new normal, I'm a world traveler, so my new normal is not being able to travel the world like I normally did. And this is the second place that I've been this year. I was in Europe earlier this year in January. And so I just had to get out. And so Mexico was right here. It's inexpensive. And so my goal was to get into a place that was relatively affordable. I can eat quality food and, live a decent lifestyle without having to deal with some of the extra stuff that's going on in the US.
On any given day, I probably have like 5 to 6 temperature checks. Post office, supermarket, we have a flea market area and it's like an artist craft fair area. They have gates set up and someone checks your temperature now. Restaurants for sure, bars before they let you sit down. Really, it's impossible to not get checked at least once a day.
New normal is, working from home. The challenging thing has been just kind of managing my time. You can find yourself working from sunrise to sundown. So I made an effort, to just kind of put some boundaries in place.
So my new normal, I'm no longer commuting to the office. I used to travel a lot for work, but now for the first time in a long time, things have slowed down for me. Now I have more time to do things that I wouldn't have been able to before, such as cooking. Before it was just easier after a long day at work. I'll just buy something. I exercise now. What's really cool is that I'm gonna have routines that I'm gonna keep up once this is over.
So when the pandemic hit us here in Germany, I was studying and being a student. So I was kind of being at home because we were on vacation and I was just writing on some papers. But then I was thinking, oh, so how is the semester going to work? Because with studying music, it just seemed weird having a choir online. Then the whole semester was online through Zoom classes and stuff. And at first I was pretty pissed off, I'd say. I just did not want to accept that. I was this is my last semester of school. But then, I don't know, I kind of just adjusted to it, just sleep, get out of bed, just put on some sweatpants and sit in front of the computer for your online class.
Actually, right before the pandemic, I started working from home. I've been doing freelance for small businesses. Life for me hasn't changed that much, except for not being able to see my friends as much. Can't go out how I used to. There's a time where we could go out, but the order was 12 o'clock. Bars had to close at 12, so it was very weird. So that you couldn't even really enjoy yourself.
I would definitely say working more from home, studying from home, switching to online classes. It was kind of this motivation went out the window. It was more so the combination of, okay, it's online now, with the stress of the pandemic and then that sudden transition that made it really hard for me to focus.
And for me, although Paris is pretty open now, I still only go out once or twice a week. I haven't yet felt super comfortable with just kind of being out and about every day. So I usually go out maybe once or twice a week, which is usually to film for YouTube. And it's crazy, guys. I literally have not gotten on the subway since February, so since before the lockdown. I personally just haven't felt comfortable being around too many people. And rush hour in Paris, the subway is usually packed. Not to say that the metro here isn't safe. My friends have taken it. I've heard that they do have safety measures, like everyone has to wear a mask. I'm pretty sure everyone needs to be social distance on the metro as well. I personally just freak out about certain things, so I haven't been on the subway. I've kind of just been taking Ubers everywhere, which of course is not sustainable and kind of also the reason why I only go out once or twice a week. So then the next question is, if you had to describe your new normal in one word, what word would you choose?
Boss life.
Uncertain.
Challenge.
Blissful.
Roller coaster.
Fluid.
Super dope.
Still.
Unexpected.
And for me, I would say, I guess unpredictable. I feel like things have been changing week after week, month after month. It's super hard to predict anything that's going to happen. So yeah, for me, I would say unpredictable. So now moving on to the next question, which I personally think is the most important, which is, how is your mental health? How have you been coping with all of this? There's been so much going on. How have you been staying sane?
Honestly, of all the places in the world to be on the lockdown, really, really lucky that it's Tel Aviv. Things are pretty safe. I would say, in the beginning, I think it was more just the novelty of the experience. What a bizarre time we are living in right now. There's so much that we have not experienced before. You get past that hump, wow, this is so weird and strange to be working from home, to be stuck inside, to not be able to leave. You start thinking about all the uncertainty too that's coming with it.
You take, the George Floyd's murder, and then you compound that with the pandemic and all of the worries around COVID and your health and the health of your loved ones. And then you're also stuck at home and not having to see anyone or do anything.
So at first I felt a little weird because it was just not cool to not see your friends and everything, and I'm a really social person, so I kind of found some ways to still be together with someone. So a lot of cooking Skype sessions with friends, and with my mom and my sister, every Saturday we had our little baking day.
I've been keeping myself together by yoga, meditation, surrounding myself with really good, positive people, not watching the news, managing the content that I consume. Kind of been in control of my space, yoga, meditation, drinking water, positive, productive people, limiting the drama, down to zero.
But yeah, I would say it was mostly just the anxiety beforehand. It was hard at moments, but it was mostly just waiting for it to be over, finding things to do. There's a lot of things that I had been planning on doing, but during the confinement, I was just there's no point in me planning anything.
Literally, apartment, I lived with 2 other girls and one guy. Me being the event planner, I'm always trying to make a game night. 3 of them actually had quarantine birthdays, so I did a little birthday thing for them. I personally find a way to cope through stuff like this one way or another. My one roommate was freaking out. There was a time where she was sleeping basically day and night.
For me, I have been doing 3 things: dedicating my time to working out, and followed by meditation and journaling. I feel like I'm mentally at a much better place. I'm less anxious, and my Saturdays are dedicated to learning about cognitive behavioral therapy. That is something that I'm super passionate about, and I'm also learning how to work with kids on their mental health.
At first, it was a breeze because I kind of like my alone time anyways. But as the pandemic continued, it just got to be a little draining, especially paying attention to the news. What I do is I try to stay away from social media, or at least try to limit it, because if you take it all in too much, it'll eat you up.
Realistically, it's been a struggle. Some days I'm productive, some days I'm not, but I think that's okay. There's a lot going on. I had days where I just got off social media.
Yeah.
I'm stuck here, and then getting that outside influence, I learned that I really need to center myself.
I'm lucky to be back in Amsterdam and have a lot more freedom and flexibility. I think it's still a struggle for those in the States that are having to stay home, and I know that's a lot of mental pressure. Humans, we're pack animals. We need to socialize and be around others, and to be alone day in, day out, it's a hard thing. I think what has been very helpful for me, again, is to have those very small working groups, and with one other colleague who I know has been also isolating themselves. That has made the process a lot easier.
So for me personally, going into the pandemic, I was a hot mess. Like, it was really tough for me because in Paris, it was like one day we were all walking around going out, and then all of a sudden, all of the cafes and restaurants were closed. So it was literally like it went from 0 to 100 in 24 hours, which is really crazy. But then of course I adjusted. But for me, it's been really important to connect with friends and family. That's kind of how I stayed the most grounded through all of this, as well as journaling. So journaling is super therapeutic for me. So I make it a habit to journal every single week. For me personally, I also see a therapist. You know, I'm actually a huge advocate for therapy. I think that just talking things out with someone helps so much and does wonders for your mental health. Even if, you know, nothing crazy has happened to you, you know, therapy isn't just for people who are really going through something. I just think it's kind of a healthy way to make sure you're okay mentally. There's an awesome website and app called BetterHelp that pairs you with a therapist that really suits your needs. So I highly recommend that if you're looking for a therapist during this time. That personally has also what's been helping me to cope with this, because there's a lot going on. You know, there's so much uncertainty, so much unknown. You know, things again are changing month after month, day after day, week after week, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. And even outside of the pandemic, you know, there's so much that's going on in the world that I think it's so important for us to make sure that we're grounded and centered and that our mental health is in check. And then what's also been really helpful for me is just picking one day a week that's literally dedicated to me, whatever I want to do. If I want to sleep all day, if I want to read all day, it's literally a TIFF day where I get to do whatever I want to do. So that's also been super helpful for me as well. Well guys, that wraps up part one. In part two, we'll be talking about what the different rules and regulations are in different cities and countries, and if people are actually following them and all of that fun stuff. So I really hope that you enjoyed hearing the perspectives of people from all over the world and how they've been experiencing the pandemic. I know that a lot of you who come to my channel are looking to move abroad very soon. A lot of you to Paris, a lot of you guys still trying to figure it out. So wanted to share with you guys the perspective of people who live all around the world on what's been going on in their city or country in regards to the pandemic. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.